Okay, so good afternoon, good day, everybody. So this is our lesson on research designs. This is part two of the PowerPoint slides that I sent into you for lesson 5. So this is the meat of our lesson. Kahit ito yung huling objective natin for this particular lesson, ito talaga yung kailangan nating i-focus, especially since both STEM and ABM have such different ways of approaching their final research project. All right, so when we talk about research designs, we are talking about the structure of any scientific work. So when we talk about structure, ang pinag-uusapan natin dito ay framework. So pag sinabing framework, ibig sabihin, siya yung nagbibigay ng direksyon, tsaka nagbibigay ng method o system para sa ating research. Which is why this is one of the first things that you decide on. It's not the first thing you decide on, but it is one of the first things that you decide. Okay. So what you choose in terms of design will affect how you present your results and how you treat them statistically and how you conclude your findings. Okay? Most scientists are interested in getting reliable observations that can help the understanding of a phenomenon. Okay? So, what are the elements of a research design? So, I think that there are five. Yan, okay? So, the elements of a research design is represented first. Ito yung most important parts, no? I covered this already in your variables, okay? So, observation, okay? Observation can also mean tests, okay? Which is why it is also referred to as measure. And then you have something called treatment, or programs, okay? Usually in experimental, we call it treatment, okay? This is something you also know as manipulation. So this is represented by X in notation, okay? Kasi when we talk about research design, there is a notation that you have to create, okay? And then you have your groups. You have the assignment to the group. So obviously these elements go together. So are they the same thing? No, they are not. Okay, so when we talk about groups, we talk about group A, group B, group C, or group 1, 2, 3, depende. Ano-ano yung groups at kung ilan yung group. But when we talk about the assignment to a group, we talk about how we are going to distribute your subjects into the group. How you do subjects to the group. And then finally, you have something called time. Time is usually delineated by an arrow sign. Okay? The arrow sign indicates that it is a continuum. Ano ibig sabihin ng continuum? It is an element of the research that does not stop. And time is always going forward. The arrow is always pointing left to the right. Walang time na bumabalik. We cannot go back in time. Ano, just for future references. Okay. So let's take a closer look at what these are. Observations can refer to a single measure. Pwede kang mag-test. Okay. So ano ba yung tinetest natin? Ang tinetest natin ay yung effect sa ating dependent variable, or rather the effect sa ating the effect sa ating subject, which is we measure our dependent variable. Okay? So the exam or the test can be single, isang beses lang. So if it's just a single measure, we refer to it as O. Okay? However, if we have multiple measures, iba-iba yung test natin, nilalagyan natin ng subscript. Okay? So this is test 1. And then we create maybe a different or maybe a similar test. We measure it by a second exam. Okay? So kapag multiple items, meron tayong subscript. So like in we do things like a whole battery of tests. In medicine, we also do this. There is a whole battery of tests or measures given out on one occasion. Okay? So, at this point in time, so obviously, dumadami yan. Dumadami yung measures natin. Okay? Alright, and then what about treatment o yung tinatawag natin na X? Treatment may be simple. Okay? Ano ibig sabihin ng simple? Isang level lang siya. Pwedeng once. Pag sinabi kong level, I mean degrees. Ano? Or it can be complex. Pwedeng multiple, maraming elements, or it can be complex, no? Many levels. Okay? Multi-level. Okay? Those are two different things, no? We're talking about degree here, okay? And this is instances or words, okay? And then the absence of the symbol X means there was no treatment. Teacher, is it possible for a research design to have no treatment? Yes, it is possible to have that, okay? Is it possible for a research design not to have an independent variable? Is it? Okay, so tingnan natin. Okay, again, because if you give multiple treatments, no, pwede tayong maglagay ng subscript. So again, x sub 1, x sub 2, x sub 3, and so forth. Depende. Ito lang ha, pagka pinag-uusapan natin ang treatment, the more treatments you have, the more measures you need to do also. The more treatments you have, the more complicated your research design is. Ibig sabihin, the more treatments you apply, okay, the more programs you create, and the more tests that you have to, the more subject to error. Which is why, as much as possible, we only use one. Isa lang yung treatment natin. Especially for your particular research designs, if you're going to have treatments for it, kailangan isa lang. Ano, kasi nagiging multifaceted masyado. I want to write that word. Multifaceted yung ating research design. You'll have an understanding of what I mean in a little bit, okay? So, sabi nga natin, usually, especially if you're doing an experimental design, katulad nung ginawa ni Albert Bandura with the Bobo experiment, ilan yung groups niya, if you remember? Okay. He had as many 3 groups. Okay? So, that is what we refer to in terms of groups. Pero pag sinabi natin assignment to a group, no, paano natin inilalagay yung subjects natin? Okay? Paano natin inilalagay yung subjects natin doon sa group na yon? Okay? So, we have several choices. 3 is random assignment. Okay? Ay, 3, sorry. R. Sorry, why did I say 3? R is random assignment. Anong ibig sabihin ng random? Hindi natin pinipili. Okay? Ano ibig sabihin ng hindi natin pinipili? Okay? We can have several ways by which we can randomly assign. Ang pinaka-common yung tinatawag na fishbowl technique, no? Noong unang panahon, literal yan. Have a container and you usually have identifiers for the subjects, no? Halimbawa, may papel tapos nakalagay 2. Halimbawa, 1 ay kunwari ay si Anton. Tapos 2 ay si Christine Escalona. Okay, tapos 3 is Micaela. Okay, so they put it in a container and then literally they just pick one. And then, suppose they pick 2. So, i-assign nila kay A, group A. And then, group B, napindot nila, nakuha nila pindot, IT1. And then, halimbawa, ang huli nilang nakuha, ilalagay nila sa group C. If you only have 2 groups, yung una, si 2, and then si 1, then si 3, no? They go back and forth. So, ibig sabihin, si Anton nasa group A, si Anton nasa group B, si Christine at si Micaela nasa group 3, no? So, obviously, because you are looking at a group that has to be at least equivalent, dapat meron tayong pang-apat na participant. O, sino kaya yung pang-apat na participant natin? Russell, halimbawa. O, so, sa huli, si Russell, sa group B siya. Dito, ibabalik siya sa letter A, sa group A. Okay, that's random assignment. One method is fishbowl. Another assignment, another way to randomly assign, okay, another way to randomly design is by means of random numbers. Okay. So how do we do that? So we pick a number. So usually a number from 1 kasi that makes it easy. So suppose I randomly choose 8. Okay? So itong mga batang to, kunwari ito lang lahat ng participants ko. So I have 1, 2, 3. Nakalista sila. Nakalista. Okay, 1, 3, 4. Suppose I have as many as 80. So I keep counting. So I count 1, 2, 3. So kunwari ito apat lang. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So ang unang participant ay si A. So si A pupunta sa group A. So 4. And then ito na lang yung natitira. So I count again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yun, nakuha ko na si Christine. So si Christine, pupunta na sa group B. So naiwan na lang si Anton at saka si Micaela. So I start counting again. So I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yun, nakuha ko si Anton. So Anton goes to group A and Micaela is the last one. So she goes to group B. Okay? You see that? So yan yung random number technique. So I just gave you two types of assignment sa random assignment. One is the fishbowl method and the second is the random number technique. Sorry, random number technique. And then another type of assignment to group is something called non-equivalent groups. Anong ibig sabihin ng non-equivalent groups? Non-equivalent groups ay yung pagka meron tayong halimbawa boys, girls. Okay? So, they have to be the same ages. Halimbawa, the ages ay 14 to 16, no? Pero, meron tayong delineation. Yung isang grupo boy, yung isang grupo girl. What's another way of looking at that? Another type of non-equivalent group is, halimbawa, meron naman akong grupo ng 14 to 16. Tapos, I have another group that is, say, 18 to 20. That's a non-equivalent group. What's another type of non-equivalent group? Halimbawa ay low achievers. Okay? Sa isang classroom, you have the students that always are marking up from 73 hanggang 77. And then I have, say, the high achievers. I'm looking at students that are marking 90 hanggang 98 or 100. Okay, so these are non-equivalent groups. Okay, are you following that? All right, and then this last one is less used. No? This is assignment by cutoff. I just included it there. So pag sinabi nating cutoff, so halimbawa, meron kang dalawang grupo. Meron kang apat na you have participants here. So sabihin ko, ay, dalawa ang ilalagay natin doon. So si 1 at saka si 2, ilalagay ko sa group A. Si 3 at si 4, ilalagay ko sa group B. Cut off, nag-assign na lang tayo. Okay? Alright. So, dito sa tatlong ito ang pinaka-importante. Ito ang pinaka-reliable. The most reliable is random assignment. Okay. So, here is what you call design notation. Okay. So, again, X refers to the treatment. Take a look at this. This is the simplest research design notation that is experimental. Okay. So, you have R. Okay. So, I have how many groups do I have here? Meron akong ilang groups. We always look at this linearly. Okay? So, meron akong group 1 at saka meron akong group 2. Very good. Okay. If this is experimental, anong groups yan? Meron tayong tawag dyan. Do you recall? Okay, so one group is the control and one group is the experimental group. Oh, dali naman ano. So sabi natin, kapag ka control group, hindi natin yan nilalagay ng treatment. So sa group 1 at sa group 2, which one is the control group? Alright. So your group 2 is your control group kasi wala siyang treatment indicated by the X. And group 1 is your experimental. Ma'am, ibig sabihin, dahil wala tayong treatment sa control, hindi na natin yan ime-measure. Oops, not so. Kasi hindi natin makikita yung tinatawag na kung hindi natin sila ime-measure. Okay? So, randomly assigned ang groups. Do you remember that? Okay? Look at that. Random assignment. Kapag ka experimental, there is always random assignment. Always. So, the subjects were randomly assigned into experimental and control group. Okay. So, tingnan natin. First, you assign them to their groups and then mineasure natin sila. Okay. Note, meron bang subscript yung ating measurements? Yes or no? Wala. Ibig sabihin, we are using the same exam. We are using the same exam. So, say for example, this is day 1. Okay. Day 1, we measure them. We measure our groups, no, our participants or our subjects. Day 2, kasi yan yung time mo, day 2, we give a treatment to the experimental group. Ma'am, ano naman pong ginagawa ng control group? So maybe we don't assign anything to them. Okay? They may be present. Pwedeng halimbawa sa laboratory natin ginagawa yun. Pwedeng present sila. Pwede namang wala. Pero for day 2, bibigyan natin ng treatment yung experimental group. And then day 3, babalik sila, may measure uli natin using the same tests. Using the same tests. Same tests. And for those substitutions, analyze, analyze, we use statistics. Use it and take it at meron ng o walang bang effect. Okay? So this is what you call a pre-test and post-test. Yan, design. Here's another one. Okay, here's another kind of research design. Okay. So is this experimental or not? Yes or no? Yes, experimental kasi meron tayong random assignment. You have control. You also have experimental. Random design ang participants. Okay. You have the experimental is one treatment. But this, there are how many ilang tests? Kasi one, two, have the first measure and you have the second measure. How many times binigay yung first measure? Twice. It was a pre-test, it was also a post-test. So, two, a like, that means double check natin, check natin na validity. Chine-check natin yung validity, yung truth nung results natin. Kasi kailangan nating maging sure sa results ng ating measures para ma-determine natin kung meron bang effect. Okay? Yung treatment natin. This is your check natin kung yan talaga yung ating effect. Alright, so here are some very important examples. Okay, very important examples. So let's take a look at this. Okay, these are what you call examples of research design notation. So this one is called the post-test only research notation. Okay, you have to choose randomly assigned. Wala sa conclusion kaya sa example, pero design. Let's decide. Bakit tayo matutuwasan tapos using the using oh, okay? Notice though, ano to? Ano tawag natin sa assignment na ito? These are with non-equivalent groups. So, ibig sabihin, pinili pinili natin yung kung saan pupunta yung subject. Okay. This is so it's kaya tawag experiment. Okay. O kaya ay not real. Not real. Have you ever watched the movie The Hunchback of Notre Dame, or have you ever book? Remember what the villain, or actually he's not the villain, he's hero, anti-hero in that story. Okay. The name of that person, yung hunchback, ang pangalan niya ay Quasimodo. No, bakit Quasimodo? Kasi not a real man. Okay, not a real man. So quasi means not real. Okay, and then finally you have test only. Post-test only. Notice na meron tayong treatment. Okay? Pero unang-una, ilang groups meron tayo? Okay, you only have just one group. So, what does this mean? Even though we have a treatment, this is considered a non-experimental design. Kasi isa lang yung group natin. We cannot establish, in both of these groups, we cannot establish effect. Wala tayong cause and effect. Hindi kahit meron tayong treatment, hindi natin pwedeng ma-determine kung tunay ba yung effect. So, kasi meron tayong tinatawag itong low validity. Low validity. Okay? Alright. So, when you were when you were studying research 1, you were mainly talking about descriptive designs. Okay? So, ito, qualitative, purely. These are quantitative research designs. Quantitative, yan. Research designs. You have correlation studies, which is at prediction. You have quasi-experimental research, and it aims to determine causes. And then you also have experimental research, which also tries to determine causes. Wait, teacher, balik tayo. Kanina, pinag-uusapan po natin to. Sabi ninyo po dito, yung quasi-experiment, it cannot determine the effect. That's correct. Hindi nga niya nadidetermine ang effect. This is true. But it does try to determine causes. The thing here is that quasi-experimental research has low validity. I will explain about that in another video. And finally, you have the experimental research, which determines causes, of which we are sure about the effect that we are doing, the effect that we have recorded. Okay, so that means the truest quantitative research is the experimental research. So these two are quantitative research designs. Okay, they do not establish cause and effect. Look, correlation study predicts. Ano pinapredict? Outcome. Okay? Ano ba ibig sabihin ng correlation na yan? If A happens, then B will probably happen. Oh, pinapredict lang niya. Oh, what about quasi-experimental research? We determine that if A happens, there is a possibility that B happens. So, kanina, probable. This one is possible, but we are not sure. Sometimes it will, sometimes because there is low validity. Whereas in experimental research, we know that if A happens, then B is sure to follow because it has high validity. If A happens, that is the cause, then B, which is the effect, will definitely happen. Okay? So, again, the different research designs are descriptive, correlational, quasi-experimental, and experimental research. All right. So, how do you distinguish one from the other? So, sulat lang natin, no? Hindi na natin sasama yung descriptive. So, you have correlation, you have quasi-experimental, and you have experimental. How do you distinguish one from the other? First question is random assignment used? Nag-randomize ba tayo? Gumamit ba tayo ng fishbowl technique? Gumamit ba tayo ng random number technique? If the answer is yes, then it is an experimental research. If no, it can either be correlation or quasi-experimental. Is there control group or multiple measures? Pagka yes, meron po tayong multiple groups. Meron tayong control group at saka experimental group. Pero the grouping is not random. Then this is what you call a quasi-experimental. If there is no control group, wala tayong control group, no, iisa lang yung grupo natin, then therefore it is non-experimental. By the way, dito sa quasi-experimental, pwede din nating ilagay dito yung correlation. Pwede tayo magkaroon ng two groups sa correlation. If there are no two groups, iisa lang yung group, one group, then it is non-experimental. Alright. So I'm going to move forward just so you can see where we're going here. So you have an assignment. Okay. So your assignment is, I have assigned to you to write in a Word document, okay, how is cause and effect established in research? So this is just a research essay. Okay. So ang hinahanap lang ni teacher sa inyo ay isang essay. So it will be written in Word, minimum of 1 page. Essay. Yan yung essay, hindi title page ha. So yan ay may title page. So ang maisasubmit ay minimum talaga ng 2 page. Pero yung 1 page non title. Maximum of 5 pages. Sobrang haba na po ng 5 pages. So nandoon po yung ating instruction sa assignment ninyo sa Teams natin. So please still use the manuscript format. Okay. Do not copy and paste. Kasi kailangan po ninyong mag-synthesize. Kailangan po ninyong build. Pag sinabing synthesize, build. So, kunwari, meron kayong 3 sources. Iba-iba yung sinabi nila sa inyo. Kailangan ninyong bumuo ng isang conclusion mula doon sa 3 sources. Kaya hindi pwedeng copy and paste. Ano? Kasi doon tayo matututo. So again, we are trying to find out paano nagkakaroon ng tinatawag na causation. Paano nagkakaroon ng causation. So, don't forget, you have to write the works cited. You have to use the APA format. Okay? Alright, so that's it for this video. God bless everybody. Bye!